This is Jethroe Binds. Welcome to the only show that digs deep to undermine the actions of the globalist elites at the Federal Reserve. Straight from a bunker somewhere in America, this is Fed Up.
Now, I'll wear this, and the Fed can't make me buy or sell any bonds. I'm a consumer, and I'm rational. I think on the margin. I like to consume. I like to invest. Welcome again to Fed Up. It's great to be with you, great to be here, undermining the lies of the weasels at the Fed. Now, the Fed has recently announced that they're looking to increase the interest rates. Now, the globalist pig dogs have a couple of secret ways that they can manipulate money in America and decide the value of your money. Today we're going to be looking at two of those methods. The first is called the reserve requirement. Now, when global people put their money into the globalist banks, the banks lend out a certain portion of the money to support the nefarious causes and further their agendas. But they also have to keep a certain percentage in reserve. Now, the Fed can mess with the reserve requirement in order to increase or decrease the money supply in the economy. But they've got a secret math formula, who knows about the math, called money multiplier, that tells them they can change the money supply of our nation just by changing the reserve requirement. Now, over the past couple of years, we've been conducting a sting operation in some of the globalist elites' favorite hiding places, colleges and universities. We sent a brave soul to go in and infiltrate these heathen lizard conspiracy dens and to find out about the reprehensible actions that the Fed takes against you, the American people. So now, I'd like to welcome that particular individual. It's our field correspondent, Miss Avery Beeks. Avery, on behalf of everybody here at Fed Up, welcome back to the only safe place in America.
Thank you for having me back. I don't think I could have survived another day there.
Now, if I understand correctly, you had to infiltrate a class on fiscal policy at the Globalist Elite University. What did you learn about the money multiplier?
Well, Jethroe, the money multiplier is, as you said, what the Federal Reserve used to figure out how the money supply is going to change after the change in the reserve requirement, and they use a deceptively simple trick to figure it out.
Typical Fed, being all shady and crafty, holding their secrets where we least expect them. So how'd they do it?
Well, the money multiplier is equal to the inverse of the reserve requirement, and...
Wait, what? Slow down. Can we get a graphic for this? No, I'm not good with this stuff myself. There we go.
So you see, the reserve requirement is, as you said, a percentage or a fraction. By taking the inverse of that fraction, we can see how much money will be added to the money supply by multiplying by the amount of new money that the Fed seeks into the market by changing that fraction. So, if a bank has $1,000 and the Fed changes the reserve requirement from 20% to 10%, the bank now has to keep only $100 in the reserve instead of $200. So that's freed up $100 from the reserves, and the bank can lend that out now. So you can see that the money supply has the potential to expand by 100 times the inverse of 0.1 or $1,000.
Chilling stuff. Thanks again for being on.
My pleasure. And please, for the love of God, don't send me back there.
Too bad. Going back for our next investigation into the discount rate.
Please no.
Now get out. Go. Don't need you here. Too bad. After the break, we'll speak to one of our rodents from the Federal Reserve who's controlling the value of money. This is Jethroe Binds with Fed Up. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Fed Up. Now, before the break, we spoke about the reserve requirement. Our next topic, it is the worst of all. I tell you, folks. It makes me sick just thinking about it. It's open market operations. Now, this so-called tool of monetary policy is swift, and it's dangerous. When the Fed springs the stuff on you, you won't know what happened. One day you wake up and suddenly, bam, the Fed's reduced the money supply and the nominal interest rate skyrocketed. Now, the filthy, disgusting tactics used by the dirtiest of all government agencies, completely despicable. It's just like, Now, I'd like to welcome on our final guest. He's a disgusting lizard person straight out of the San Francisco Federal Reserve. He flew all the way out here on taxpayer dime to tell us about the atrocious tactics used by the Fed to manipulate much of our how our money's worth. It's Martin Travers.
Hello, Jethroe. Thanks for having me on.
Get your hands off me, lizard scum. So, I was telling you and our listeners and viewers, I learned from a covert source that the Fed is about to increase interest rates. And
That's actually the public information.
shut up. I didn't ask you. You guys are increasing the interest rate, I understand. You're doing it in open market operations, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So exactly what we're doing is...
Nobody asked you, you liar. This is my show. This is what I'm talking about, okay? So, through open market operations, you're selling bonds to the global consumers in your unscrupulous attempt to increase our interest rates, right?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily call it unscrupulous. But yes, through open market operations, we are in fact increasing the interest rate by selling bonds.
Now, break it down. Here's what the filthy animals are doing when they talk about open market operations. Another covert source tells me...
Again, sir, that's public information. You can literally just go online and get on Google, and then you can just look up open market operations and see exactly...
Look, I don't even know where you're... Get off my set right now.
Okay, I'm leaving.
Get off.
Great talking to you, Mr.
Go.
Binds.
Don't even want to hear you. You know, folks, I just hate those Fed people. They're like animals, I tell you. I walk among those people, they're disgusting, and their hands are all over our money. Horrible, it's like... Oh. Get my senses together. Guess I'll just have to continue on without him. Now, let me tell you, folks, our covert source tells me that the American public is brainwashed into the never-ending transaction with the Fed of buying and selling government bonds. Now, that's called open market operations. Now, when the Fed wants to decrease the money supply, it sells government bonds to the consumers. And that means that the money is funneled into the Fed, and we get nothing but those stupid bonds in return. Now, the Fed hoards the money, and that means that there's less money in circulation, so that the money supply in total is decreased. Now, in the other direction, the Fed buys bonds for the people that give back the money that it's hoarded away. That makes more money in circulation, and that means that they can increase the money supply. Now, here's the really evil part. What our correspondent showed us is the secret money supply graph. Looks like this. Now, the quantity of money on the horizontal axis and the nominal interest rate on the vertical axis, that's kind of how it's set up. See, that's how you get, because the nominal interest rate that they show isn't even real. The vertical line is the money supply, that you've got your money and the demand curve over there. Now, where they intersect, that's called equilibrium. And you can use that to find the interest rate and the quantity of money in circulation. Now, when the Fed buys bonds, for example, the money supply is increasing. Okay, so it looks like this. So now, that means that the money supply curve shifts to the right and the quantity of money increases and forms a new equilibrium with a bigger quantity of money and a lower interest rate. And of course, what they're doing now is the opposite, selling bonds and decreasing the money supply and raising the interest rate. Truly sickening and disgusting. Well, you know what that sound means. The sons of hamsters at the Fed have breached our bunker, and we've run out of time. Join us next week, and we'll explore the interactions between monetary and fiscal policy. And now the Fed has a direct role in deciding our nation's GDP. Until the next time, this is Fed Up. I'm Jethroe Binds. Now, folks, just to show you how powerful this Super Male Vitality Plus is, I'm going to take one for you, just so you can document the effects. Folks, this is unprecedented in the history of Fed Up. Mr. Jethroe Binds. Power! Take Super Male Vitality, folks.